A step parenting expert, Chris Burns.
Women's mindset coach and stepmom, Chris Burns.
Welcome to the Step Parent Podcast. Welcome to Step Parent Podcast. I am very excited that you guys are all here. For those listening or not tuning in live, this is a live event with some really special people in the room that I wanted to exclusively invite to launch the podcast and celebrate this new chapter, this new season of doing something that is fucking scary. If you know anything about me, you know that I live by the mantra, nothing good comes from a comfort zone. And Inside Out, my previous podcast, which all of you will know, had become a comfort zone. I can sit and interview anyone. I can talk underwater. I'm all good to go. Sometimes I can avoid questions that are directed back at me, or if it's triggering, I kind of just go, okay, I can go the other way with that. I'm very good at narrating that podcast, essentially. And I love it. And it has been such a significant part of my growth as a mum, as a stepmom, and as a woman, I think, like building confidence and bringing my life back after babies and all the things in between. So I'm grateful for that. And it's not goodbye to Inside Out, but it is a brand new chapter of the Step Parent Podcast. I'm Chris, for those listening, and I have been a stepmom for almost 10 years. And in that, I have learned a lot. And it has been a roller coaster. And I'm grateful for all of the lessons, and I'm grateful that I have almost had this opportunity to go through the heaviest moments and unpack the parts of me that I otherwise wouldn't. Like, I would have just been happily sitting in my surface level shit and just, hey, how's the weather? Like, what are we doing next weekend? Like, family weekends away, white picket fence, lifestyle. Like, that's not me. It was never meant for me. And when I was a kid, I think I wanted that life and I craved it. But I'm so grateful that I've gone through what I've gone through, because I believe that step parents, for a lot of us, will break generational patterns of pain and trauma, and blended families will also support that as well, regardless. This podcast is not simply for the stepmoms in the world. It is for blended families. It is for anyone navigating a new season, whether that's divorce, separation. Maybe you're just building a relationship with your partner again and trying to find yourself through motherhood, whatever that fucking looks like. Like, there is so much in this podcast that will be a benefit to relationships and personal growth. So bringing a bit of inside out spark to it, but also the strategies and the support, I suppose, will be specifically around blended families and step parents. My childhood. So my parents divorced when I was 8. Now, the lovely way that I found out about this was my father went on a butcher's trip to Airlie Beach for 6 months. I remember crying, and he went off on his fucking Harley Davidson or Triumph, whatever motorbike it was. I remember mum being hysterical and just saying, like, get out of here, David, just leave. And I'm like, why is everyone yelling? Like, I just didn't understand as an 8-year-old kid what was happening. Dad's going on a work trip. What do you mean? He was a butcher. Butchers don't go on work trips. But I didn't understand that at the time. It just made sense to me. I was like, yeah, Dad's going early on a work trip. Anyway, so off he rode into the sunset on his Harley or whatever bike it was. And it was probably about 8 weeks later, because I remember it was holidays, like the long school holidays. And I was in the pool at my auntie Karen's house. And this is kind of where all of the kids from the neighbourhood and everyone that we knew would roll in, right? So there was probably like 30 kids in this pool, and all the adults were partying, and it was a great time. And all I knew to that point was Dad was away for work on his butcher's trip. And one of the kids said, I'm sorry to hear about your mum and dad and their divorce. And I will never forget that moment. And for me, it was, I can't trust the people that told me to tell the truth and that the truth is important. I can't mask that. In my own, like, for me, that was the imprint, the definitive moment where I went, I can't fucking trust anyone, and I will never ever forget it. So from that, it became a long-lived life of, well, not long-lived, I'm good now, I'm a good girl. It became a life of questions, of curiosity, of pushing boundaries, of self-infliction, of doing anything to cause myself my own pain, to support victimhood, right? To support not growing and blaming everyone for my shit. And it started then, just with my parents not being honest, not sitting me down, with my parents not having the emotional intelligence or the self-accountability or the discipline or the commitment to me as the child to own their shit and to face it front on. They hid from fear. And I don't blame my mum for that, because mum's a legend. Anyone that knows mum knows that she's great. But we don't like dad. That's a longer story that we could talk about another time. But I think that they had a choice and they were afraid and they didn't have the tools and resources that we have now. And not only do we have those tools and resources now, I don't think that all of us are leaning into them enough and pushing ourselves to be uncomfortable with our truth enough. And that is why this podcast exists. Because if my parents had this as a resource, it would have changed the trajectory of my own life. If I had had this resource at 24 when I became a stepmom, 50% of the time, and I wasn't just a step parent, I was the default parent. And that wasn't a pre-discussed conversation between my husband and I. It's just what it was. I became that and I lent into it. I was happy to be that. I still am happy to be the default parent. But I didn't know the weight that it carried when I stepped into it. And that changed me at the time. I went through massive identity shifts and grief, I think. I was 24. I was like, oh, cool. 1 minute I was not with a family, and then I moved in with the person I fell in love with, and I had a family 50% of the time and raising children, and I took that responsibility so much to heart and so personally because I had to do a great job because I didn't want them to feel how I felt. So everything was about let them feel what you've experienced. Don't let them take that road because it's fucking heavy and it's hard and it hurts. So I suppose that is where everything changed for me, is developing my personal growth, looking myself in the mirror, facing the demons, facing the monster. They say to be a master of your emotions, you first need to face the monster, and that's what I did. And it's heavy and it's yucky and it's awful, and you have to move through it because on the other side of fear is growth every single fucking time. And that's what I've done, and I think it has changed my stepdaughters' lives. I think it's changed my husband's life. I think it's changed my life. And not only did I become a pretty great, in my own personal opinion, pretty great stepmom, I became a fucking phenomenal mum. And my son and my daughter will never, ever go through what I went through generational patterns of trauma and pain, because whilst I didn't get it right with the girls the whole time from the start, I was a baby. I was 24. I know that I did the best that I could. And I did the best. I didn't just half-ass it. I didn't go, I'll try it 80% today. I did 110%. I'd left no stone unturned. And I think that was what my blended family really needed. And I think a lot of blended families need that. But people sit in fear of rocking a boat, fear of getting it wrong, fear of getting too close and getting hurt. I won't speak too much on my mum's own experience, but because she can tell her story when she's ready. But when we moved in with her partner, I was 12 at the time, and he had 2 sons, and they were my stepbrothers. And basically for 5 years we lived as a family. One was a year older, one was 18 months younger, and then I had a brother that was 4 years younger. And the boys became my best friends, right? When Mum and Trevor, and I can say his name, whatever, he's never going to listen. I have trauma from switching the lights off, so whenever I leave the room to this day, I'll switch a light switch off because he used to yell at me for leaving the electricity on because electricity was so expensive, and of course he had no money. He had heaps of money, but he was just such a tight ass with so many things. So I had this little this instinct, I still do it, and so I'm in the room. Why? So, that grieving when that ended was horrific. I felt like I lost, again, another identity shift, another crisis, another reason to be a victim, another reason to blame the world. But those relationships ended, and that blended family didn't work out. But my mum didn't have the tools that she could possibly have now. And I think that for her experience, she's really spent the last 20 years grieving the loss of her stepsons. And I've always had a fear that would happen to me. I'm so afraid, and I still feel that way. And this is super vulnerable to share, but I still feel, what happens if they tell me to fuck off and never come back? That's still scary. But what I also know is I have integrated so much self-trust, so much self-belief, so much accountability. And the bond I have with my stepdaughters it's not breakable. It's not breakable with words. It's how I've chosen to show up for a decade and committed myself and my love and my change work and my personal growth. How I have showed them what self-trust looks like within myself will be enough for our relationship to withstand whatever comes at us, no matter what. And I know that in my heart. So I choose to follow that narrative as opposed to the other narrative. But sometimes we can just fucking go, choose the narratives that's going to support the emotion that's a negative emotion, right? Because we want to be a victim. Our unconscious mind will literally take the path of least resistance every fucking time. So we will choose to sit in our shit before we will choose to grow. And because I know that consciously, I know that I can change that. But sometimes, it's just sometimes, and when I say Mike's down a little later and we have a little chat later, you'll hear where sometimes I choose to be a victim. And it's okay. But it's so important that I want blended families and step parents to know, don't fucking stay there. Do not stay there, because you will lose at the end. I promise you, you are the only one that's going to lose. Not the ex, not the kids, not your partner. It's you that loses. If you choose to stay a fucking victim to your external world, your shit is just going to hold within yourself, and that's on you. That's not anyone else's responsibility. And it's so easy for us to want to blame the world and blame the ex, blame the new partner, blame the children, blame the not children if they're little most of the time, but if they're older and teenagers, things are hard, things are heavy. It's easier to blame other people. But when we take full accountability for who we are, our actions, shit's different. It moves different. They also talk about, like, when you fall pregnant, as some of you will know, that there's 9 months of prep work. You've got the books, the classes, the support, the doulas, the fucking midwives. It was been a little while since I've had a baby, but there's a lot of people that you feel like you can just Google and turn to, and you feel like you've got an understanding of what's coming. But there's nothing available to step parents other than some really bad website I found. And I was like, how dated is this? This isn't going to help anyone. So I guess that's a big piece to why I'm here and why I started this podcast. And this podcast isn't the only resource. You guys have all received a resource today. Use it if you will. Give it to someone. Share it with whoever the fuck you want. That is yours. There is free access to my course that has just been sent live literally 20 minutes ago. This is everything I know compiled and compounded into one fucking space. So the podcast is going to be a fantastic tool and resource for people. But that course, the Step Parent Standard, is every educational tool and skill set and lesson that I have learnt and shadow fucking thing that I've done for myself. It is all in there, and you guys can all take it home and have free access to that, and it's forever. So use it as you like, or don't use it, whatever. But give it to someone that you think needs it or could use it, because I guarantee you'll take one thing from it at the absolute minimum. There's so much there, but like choose to take all of it also. I think that being a step parent, not being a step parent, sorry, but I think that blended families is a cultural blind spot in society. I think that, of course, we all want to stay happily married. I'm married. I want to stay married forever, but I'm not naive to the fact that that could change. And I know that if that did change, my stepdaughters wouldn't go through what they went through the first time. I know that for sure, because I am not someone that doesn't have control of feeling, and I know that I want the best outcome for everyone. And I would be different to my own parents' divorce. After that period of that 6 months when Dad returned from his little butcher's trip, he continued to, he was an every second weekend dad, that's what I like to call it. And even then it was too much and too hard. We didn't have a bed at his house for like 3 years, and my mum reminded me of this little traumatic experience, thank you Mum. But one Christmas, because we'd never had a bed at his house, one Christmas we got beds. 6 months later, he sold the beds because we didn't use them often enough. I was like, so what was the Christmas present? So this was the kind of relationship I had with my dad. I felt replaceable, like I was too much, it was too annoying, I was an inconvenience, and those wounds have carried me through my entire life. Those wounds are exactly what have led me to where I am today, but in the best way. I'm grateful that it happened, because otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here and I wouldn't be able to help people, and that's what my dream is. But I'm also very aware that wasn't fucking good enough. Like, fuck that. And let me tell you, for anyone that's going through that now, where they feel like an ex or a parent isn't showing up for your child the way that you want them to, know that the child will remember. They will never forget who was there. There was a man that lived a couple of doors up from my house when I was a kid. His name was Darren. Mum and him were friends. He was lovely. And I'll never forget when Mum sent Darren to my netball game and he showed up, because Mum knew that if she wasn't there, no one come. So she always put someone in her place when she couldn't make it. She worked 3 jobs. It was hard. It was different. And she knew asking Dad wasn't possible at all, even when he lived at Swansea and I played at Belmont. So, like, even when he lived at Belmont North and I played at Belmont, there was multiple times where Dad just wouldn't show up. So she sent Darren, and I'll never forget looking over there and being like, that's so weird that you're here, but I'm so happy. But like, thank you. He's like, clapping, go, Chris. I'm like, who are you? No, we loved him. He was great. But look, they don't forget. Don't underestimate what you're doing now. They will remember who was there and who wasn't, but you've got to write it out. Don't make them feel guilty. Don't hold your projections to them. Do the fucking work. Let them make the decisions when they're older, because they will. They do. They know. Kids are like sponges. They just soak every little piece of what's going on around them in. It's up to you to ensure that they're not absorbing your shit and your story, because your story isn't theirs. And I think that's the hardest pill to swallow for a lot of people. It's been the hardest pill for myself. The biggest lessons that I can share with you to take away is this. The things that trigger you aren't the problem, your wounds are. And they arrived long before a toxic ex or a challenging home. It's up to you to change how you feel about your external world. It's not up to anyone else. And it's so easy to blame everyone else. It is. I spent a long time in victimhood, and it was easier. The next one is that boundaries are your best friend. You need to honour the fuck out of yourself. Step parenting is no different to being a mum, being a partner. It's really no different to working at a job with a boss. You need to honour yourself. Like if you're in a role that no one's trained you for, you need to choose yourself. And you need to set clear boundaries, energetic boundaries, emotional boundaries, fucking spiritual boundaries, whatever that looks like. You need to choose you. You have a choice, right? You can let it build over time and resent people later, or you can start with what do I need right now? What do I need? Do I need to show up less or show up more? What does that look like? Do I need support? Am I choosing not to ask for support because I want to look like the martyr? For what purpose does that actually serve? Because what's going to happen is you're going to be resentful to your kids and your partner, or you're the resentful to the ex and the stepchildren, or whatever that the dynamic is, rather than just saying that I need help. Like there's nothing wrong with that. On this podcast, I'm going to be doing a segment called If I'm Honest. And this one is going to be a little rogue. It's going to be raw, rogue. Basically, my community online, or anyone that wants to leave a voice recording on my website, will be dropping in and leaving live stories, feedback, whatever the fucking thing is that you want to talk about. If it is something hectic and like disgusting or messed up, whatever, share it. Let's talk about it. Or if it is just like a vulnerable truth, or if it's a story time, or if you're just looking to be coached and have a question about something. The great thing is it's completely anonymous. If I'm Honest is anonymous. So Jacob over there will be changing the people's voices as they drop in via voice notes, so no one will ever hear your actual voice. I see a lot of the shit online. I'm like, oh my God, what if I knew that voice? Like my friends, I wouldn't know who that is. Like if someone I knew shared something on the radio, I'd be like, I know that person. So that's not what I'm about. I'm not doing that shit. But you can write it in via email as well. So that will be pushed out across social media really soon, which is really exciting. But I have launched on social media. TikTok specifically has climbed very quickly. We are at 3,000 followers in just under a month, which is crazy to me because I've done this for 7 years. So it's fucking wild, and I'm very, very grateful for each and every person on TikTok. But I've had a lot of messages, a lot of DMs from women that are in the step parenting gig and just really, really struggling. So I wanted to share one of the people in my community on TikTok story. She messaged me recently, and I want to sort of give some live feedback to that. So she wrote, as a fellow step parent, how do you deal when your 12-year-old stepdaughter has decided she doesn't want to see her biological dad and I anymore? She's basically cut off communication because she only wants to live at one home and not 50-50. This message, first of all, scary for me. It's like, oh my God, if my girls ever did that, I'd be devastated. But also, not my projection to hold, no shame, no guilt. Like that's what a child has decided. And this is what I would reflect back to her, If your child, a 12-year-old child, has voiced what they need, you listen. Now, it might have influence. It might have someone forcing their opinion onto them. They might have a toxic ex involved, like whatever. That's irrelevant. A child has voiced what they're asking for. It's up to you to be the adult, not to be the victim. You can choose to respond with love and compassion, or you can choose to respond with shame. It's, why don't you want to see us? What have we done wrong? Like that language is a child trying, it's like, I can't explain what you've done wrong. I just don't want two homes anymore. And mums feels like the easier one, or mums feels like the one I can get away with things at, or mums is this, or mums is that. Whatever the reason is, it's not for you to judge as a parent, I think, but it is for you to hold space for. And what I would say to her is, keep showing up. Every sport, every assembly, anything available, just stand there, clap. Don't even have to force a cuddle, don't have to force hello. Just let her know you were there and walk away. One day she will see it, but it's up to you. It's almost like she's testing. Like, who cares? Who really cares? Who's going to show up? Because it's so much easier for people to walk away. And if she's looking for you to walk away, she's like, yep, knew that. Knew you'd do that. Knew you'd leave. People always leave. That's kind of, I think, what I wanted when I was a kid. My stepdad, who is still my stepdad, bless his cotton socks, Grant, he met my mother 2 weeks after she ended her relationship with the man, Trevor, that we discussed earlier. And I lost my stepbrothers and we had nowhere to live. Trevor kicked us out. So we were living at Burrubi Beach Caravan Park in a cabin, mind you. It was a lovely cabin, so it was working for me. I was fine. Lots of kids there. It was a great time. And Mum ends up getting invited to this wedding on Burrubi Beach. And it was a couple that like owned a van and I don't know, Mum just made friends with them. It was so random. And she's like, yeah, I'll go to their wedding. And then I walked around to see Mum before, like they were all at the caravan drinking. And this man approaches me and he goes, I'm Grant. I'm like, hello? And he goes, I'm going to marry your mum. Go fuck yourself. No, you're not. And he goes, just you wait. I'm like, Mum, who's this? Thinking like, do we know this man? And she goes, I just met him, just ignore him. And no word of a lie, they are married. It's been like, I don't know, 17 years or something like that. But they made it to the end and he made his decision and he picked his wife. But I fought like a bitch to get rid of this man. And I mean, I left no stone unturned. I really didn't want him around, but he stayed and he stuck it out. And I have so much respect for him now. He could have walked away because, God, I made it hard. I was 17. I was awful, like a really mean bit of gear. And this man stayed. So I think that it's really important to this person from TikTok, just stay. Just stay. Just honour them. Give them space and see what happens when you show up anyway and show up from a place of unconditional love, because right now you're like disconnecting and walking away would advocate for conditional love. I only love you when you come here. I only love you when you give me validation and tell me I'm worthy. I'll only love you when you give me attention like you give mum attention. That's not what an adult does. That's not how an emotionally intelligent human operates. And if you don't know how to operate that way, then this is the space for you, because that's what I am about teaching. So Georgia just gave me some questions so that I don't know what they are, but I'm a little bit nervous because I said just go rogue. Let's see what happens anyway. So if I don't like them, I won't answer them, just to be honest. How do I cope? How do I cope with guilt for not always feeling bonded to my stepkids? I can't answer that question from my own personal experience, but I can answer it from multiple women that I've worked with experience, because it is something that a lot of clients feel a disconnect. I can probably have the one probably disconnect is that I have to share them, and I find that really irritating, to be honest. I'm someone that likes results. I like control. I like to know what's happening. I like to know where things are at, and I find that really tricky sometimes to navigate myself personally. But for a lot of clients, I think the answer to that is you get to choose what your relationship looks like. That's on you. That's not on anyone else. And if you're not bonded to the expectation that you're setting the standard of, like, well, what's the purpose for the standard? Where's the standard at? What do you actually want? Do you want a relationship that's identical to your biological kids? If so, work your fucking ass off to have it. That's what I've done, and I've seen success with it. If you want a relationship that is one part removed, then you have to have that set expectation and be really realistic about, well, if you're going to treat them a certain way, expect that in return. Are you okay with that? Or do you want to be treated as a parent in the house? One thing that I've always said is when you step into the step parent role, you need to choose, are you going to be a step parent, step mum, step dad, or are you going to be dad or mum's partner? There's no in between. You choose, and you choose because you're the adult stepping into the role. You have to choose it from the start, and you can't take it back, which sucks. For a lot of people, I think, that want to take it back down the track, but it can. A step parent is a third parent, a bonus parent. It's someone who shows up, who has unconditional love, who does all the things a parent would do when a biological parent isn't there. A partner doesn't really get any authority, but you can just have the freedom of saying that you've got stepchildren that you love, but that you have one part removed. And once you decide that, you need to stick with it. And I think that's probably, what I would say to that question, because it's a tricky one, because guilt's a choice. We can choose to have it, or we can choose to remove it. How involved should I be in co-parenting decisions if I don't have any legal authority but carry emotional pressure? You need to do what's right in your home. You cannot let anyone dictate how you run your house. That's not up to anyone else. You're in a relationship with your husband. There are children in the dynamic. That's your priority. A biological parent outside of that circle comes next. And of course, respect, yes, 1,000%. Respect, kindness, compassion, give it what it deserves, because that is their mother or their father, and they deserve that respect from you. But if you are dealing with someone that is high conflict or narcissistic or toxic, you serve your family first. Don't fucking worry about anyone else in that house, or not in that house, outside of that home. You need to do what's best, and so serve your family first, and then do what's best for the children. Because yes, you might not have legal authority, which I don't. I don't have any legal authority over my stepchildren, but I am a parent. I am on their enrolment forms as a parent. I am the first port of call when they're sick at school. I'm the first port of call if they hurt themselves at sport. It's what I have built over 10 years. I don't need to be a legal authority for me to be their parent.